Shedeur got it done.
Shedeur Sanders is a ball player, fellas.
Sanders showed poise in the pocket. He showed accuracy.
That's 2 badges under my belt already.
Shedeur Sanders just went from 4th string to the talk of the NFL in just one night. 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and a preseason debut that felt like a playoff game. For a quarterback that every front office let slide in round 5, this was more than a coming out party. It was shots fired across the bow of every other team in the league.
Let's dust this off. Let's dust this off, man.
When the Browns released their first depth chart of 2025, Shedeur Sanders was listed 4th, behind Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel. During OTAs and minicamp, Sanders didn't get any reps with the first-team offense. The only reason Sanders got the start against Carolina in the preseason opener was because Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel were sidelined by hamstring injuries.
Quarterbacks with a pulled hamstring. That's a rare one. To have 2 out of the 4?
Now, for most rookies, being thrust into their first NFL action with players they've barely met, let alone practiced with, would be a recipe for disaster, but not for Shedeur Sanders. It took exactly 1 quarter for number 12 to settle in, and then the fireworks started.
Play fake, Shedeur Sanders into the trap.
That's not a rookie throw. That's a pro-level decision against a live rush threading the needle through double coverage, but Sanders was far from done making his point. But his most impressive moment came late in the first half with a defender in his face.
Sanders moving the pocket, downfield throw.
That strike set up his second touchdown of the night, a 12-yard toss to Davis that was low and on the money with 1 minute 58 seconds to go in the opening half. But Shedeur still wasn't done. In the third quarter, he led another touchdown drive, going a perfect 3 for 3 on the possession that culminated in a rushing touchdown for Gage Larvaden. By the time Tyler Huntley replaced him late in the third, Sanders had gone 14 of 23 for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 19 rushing yards. His passer rating was a clean 106.8, but it wasn't the numbers that impressed the most, it was the feel. The huddle bought in, the offense moved, and on every snap, you could sense the anticipation, even from Panthers fans. For a kid who'd been sitting 4th on the depth chart just days earlier, this was more than a debut. It was an arrival that everyone should have seen coming, but didn't. And if you're excited to see how well Sanders does this season, make sure to hit that like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Now, you don't just walk into the NFL and do what Shedeur Sanders did on Friday night. You earn it long before the snap. At Jackson State, Sanders wasn't just a quarterback, he was the catalyst of a program transformation. In just 2 seasons, he threw for 6,963 yards and 79 total touchdowns, while leading the Tigers to back-to-back SWAC titles and 2 undefeated regular seasons. Then came the move to Colorado, where the pressure got turned up to 11. Playing quarterback when your dad is Deion Sanders means every throw gets dissected on national television, every decision gets second-guessed by talking heads, and every interview becomes a referendum on your character. But here's the thing, the same scrutiny and attention that likely caused Shedeur to plummet in the draft is exactly what prepared him for his NFL debut, because this guy thrives in the spotlight, period. At Colorado, he threw for 7,364 yards, 64 touchdowns, and just 13 interceptions over 2 seasons. His 74% completion percentage in 2024 led all FBS quarterbacks, and he did that while throwing for 4,134 yards and 37 touchdowns. More importantly, at Colorado, he learned how to handle adversity, how to perform when the lights are brightest, and how to lead when everyone's watching. For 2 years, Shedeur stood behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football and still produced at an elite level, all while dealing with constant criticism about his family, attitude, and readiness for the next level. So when he stepped under center in Charlotte on Friday night, this wasn't unfamiliar territory. It was just another big stage in a series of big stages where Shedeur Sanders has been living his whole life. The question should never have been whether he could handle the moment, it was whether the NFL was ready for what he was about to throw them. But now, that's in the rear view, and all that matters is what the Browns coaches do with what they saw in Carolina.
You saw what Shedeur Sanders was capable of. We all knew what Shedeur Sanders was capable of, and he's going to show that he should start.
Now, it's no secret, Cleveland's quarterback situation heading into 2025 was messy to put it mildly. They had Deshaun Watson recovering from an Achilles injury, veteran Joe Flacco as the presumed starter, Kenny Pickett, who they acquired in a trade, and future starter Dillon Gabriel, drafted in the 3rd round. So when the Browns grabbed Sanders with the 144th pick in the 5th round, sending picks 166 and 192 to Seattle, it raised eyebrows. Why would a team with that many quarterbacks add another one? The answer came from GM Andrew Berry.
He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket. We didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the 5th round, and so we love adding competition to every position room and adding him to compete with the guys that are already in there. We felt like that was the appropriate thing to do.
But here's the thing. Once they had him, the Browns didn't treat Sanders like the steal of the century. He came into OTAs and training camp as the low man on the totem pole, listed 4th on the depth chart behind Flacco, Pickett, and Gabriel. Critics immediately began asking why he wasn't being brought along faster if he was such a value pick. The conventional wisdom was that Sanders needed to outperform Kenny Pickett to make the team, since Flacco was the presumptive starter and Gabriel was a day 2 pick that the team wanted to see succeed. But with injuries to Pickett and Gabriel right before the preseason opener, Sanders got an unexpected opportunity to show exactly why 31 teams might have made a massive mistake. And once he got that chance, he made sure nobody would forget it.
I like the fact that it's a finger in the eye to the draft industrial complex. I like the fact that all the haters, the Shedeur haters, are going to be scrambling to come up with excuses.
Shedeur's debut was on Friday night, and by Saturday morning, the reactions were pouring in from every corner of the football world. LeBron James, never shy about his Browns fandom, didn't hold back. His father Dion kept it simple but proud, and former Panthers running back Jonathan Stewart captured what a lot of us were thinking. But inside the Cleveland Browns organization, the reaction was more reserved. Coach Kevin Stefanski made it clear he wasn't going to dive into depth chart discussions. In fact, he said it's unlikely Sanders will get as much playing time in future preseason outings, with Pickett and Gabriel expected back from injuries. Reports suggest he's still behind Dillon Gabriel on the depth chart, and the coaches are treating this performance as a solid step forward, not a championship moment.
We're really just focused on developing our players, but I'm not diving into the quarterback competition.
However, the fan reaction has been electric, and more importantly, the rest of the NFL is waking up to what they passed on in the draft. Around the league, front offices that passed on Sanders multiple times are probably rewatching the tape and second-guessing their evaluations. Because in a league where good quarterbacks are impossible to find, watching one slip to the 5th round and then dominate in his debut has to sting, especially when that quarterback was sitting right there for anyone to take, and here's what no one else is talking about. After a performance that had the entire football world buzzing, Shedeur Sanders did something that might have surprised his critics the most. He stayed humble. Well, relatively speaking.
Did I play up to par? No, I don't feel like I did, but overall the main goal was to win.
To be clear, Sanders was far from perfect on Friday night. He nearly threw an interception when throwing into traffic in the 2nd quarter. On another play, he tried to do too much when feeling pressure and scrambled out of bounds for a loss instead of throwing the ball away. But after the game, Shedeur owned his mistakes and gave credit where it was due. Turns out, Sanders wasn't the cocky, entitled player that some draft analysts had painted him as during the pre-draft process. He was a confident but grounded rookie who understood the moment while staying focused on improvement. That combination of performance and perspective has people around the league and around the country taking notice. So, what comes next? The debut was solid, but things only get tougher in week 2 against a Philly defensive front that's one of the best in football. If Sanders gets in the game and holds his own against that unit, the conversation in Cleveland gets even more heated. It may even stop being about when he'll start and become about how soon they can hand him the job. As one high-ranking Browns executive told Yahoo Sports weeks before the debut, how he plays in preseason games won't be ignored. If that sentiment holds true, then his performance against Carolina can't be written off as just exhibition football. The reality is that Shedeur Sanders is now an NFL quarterback who's given the league a glimpse of what he can do at this level. Why he lasted until the 5th round of the 2025 draft, or why the Browns decided to add a 5th quarterback to the roster, no longer matters. The team could trade Sanders tomorrow, or he could start week 1 against the in-state rival Bengals. Your guess is as good as ours at this point. But one thing became abundantly clear in the preseason opener. Shedeur Sanders came ready to play, and if he continues to excel in limited opportunities, how can he not be part of the larger quarterback conversation in Cleveland? Of course, that's not something this kid is talking about at this point.
I just think about when I get out there doing what I got to do. Everything else is not in my hands, so I worry about it. It's nothing you're going to be able to control. So why put energy in something that you can't control?
That's the mentality of a guy who's been doubted before and knows exactly how to respond. With poise, precision, and the kind of performance that makes you forget he was ever supposed to be a project. For 4 rounds and 144 picks, Shedeur Sanders sat and waited. He watched quarterbacks with worse college stats get selected ahead of him. He endured questions about his character, his readiness, and whether he was worth the perceived headaches. He fell from a projected top 5 pick to the 5th round, losing out on tens of millions of dollars in the process and igniting debates about whether he belongs in the league at all. But one Friday night in Charlotte has now changed the course of that conversation, if not Shedeur's future. 2 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, and the kind of pocket presence that even has his critics taking notice were what he delivered when given the chance. Ironically, it was the same confidence that caused teams to question his fit in their locker room that allowed Shedeur to step onto an NFL field for the first time and look like he belonged. Cleveland saw what 31 other teams missed: a quarterback with elite accuracy, NFL-level arm talent, and the mental toughness to perform under the brightest lights. And if this debut was any indication, they may have just found their franchise quarterback for the price of a 5th-round pick. The Browns have been searching for stability at the position for decades, and maybe, just maybe, he was wearing number 12 all along. So, what do you think? Did 31 teams just make the biggest mistake of the 2025 draft, or was this just one great preseason game? Drop your take in the comments section below and get the debate going. You're watching Snap Count, and just like Shedeur Sanders, we're proving the doubters wrong, one video at a time.